Today has got to be one of the most incredible days in our political history. I cannot believe that at the time of filming this video, that Reform are the only party that holds control over any of the councils where there are elections today. Of all the ones that have been declared so far, either Reform have taken control or the councils have fallen into no control. The good news does not stop coming for the Reform Party today, and I expected them to do well. But to be honest, not this well. This is beyond belief. The two-party system has been completely rejected. It's time to start organising the funeral for the Conservative Party because the electorate have completely dismissed them and forgotten that they existed in these elections going on today. And the Labour Party, well, they are certainly paying the price for around 9 months in power, and all they've done is annoyed the public. You've had people furious about winter fuel payments and whatnot being cut. People are fed up of both the Tories and Labour, and today's results absolutely show it. Not only is Reform the only party that's taken control of any councils so far, but the number of seats collated in total that have been declared, we're not done declaring yet, but this is what we have so far in the 15 of 23 councils where we have had results. Reform are at the top there. 547 seats, Lib Dems 298, Conservatives 234, and look at Labour, 69 seats, completely trailing behind by the Greens. This is unbelievable. And you know, this screenshot here, this is from the BBC's results. And I remember when the general election results came out last year, Reform didn't even have a block on that table. It was just Conservatives, Labour. They had like Lib Dems and Greens that had, you know, Greens particularly had like barely any seats, right? But Reform didn't even get a box, even though millions and millions of people across the country voted for them, right? But now look, Reform, even on the BBC website, had got a bright turquoise blue block on that results list right at the top there. They are a serious party now, and that result in Runcorn today, here you've got Nigel Farage clearly absolutely ecstatic about the fact that they won it by 6 votes. I mean, that was incredible. I woke up early this morning, and at the time we were then getting the news in that they had just done the first count and there were only 4 votes between. And it was just such an amazing close race to watch. And then I went to do Mike Graham's morning show on Talk TV this morning, and literally like 10 seconds before we started the show, the result came in of the recount, and we found out that it had been taken by the Reform Party by 6 votes. And it was just unbelievable to announce and talk about. I mean, we couldn't believe it because this was one of Labour's safest seats. Mike Amesbury had a huge majority of nearly 15,000 at the last election just last year, less than a year ago. He got 22,000 votes, and the second place candidate, which was for Reform, only got 7,000 votes. What a change of mood in the country and in Runcorn. Absolutely incredible. In fact, let's just go and take a look at what Nigel had to say after that result came in Runcorn, because this was just an incredible by-election.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, we could win a general election without winning this seat. So if we can win a seat like this, goodness knows what we can do. Massive swing to us here. And across the country, you're seeing big swings to us from Labour in the north and Conservatives in the Midlands and the south. It's fascinating.
How big a moment is this for you?
For the movement, for the party, it's a very, very big movement indeed. Absolutely. No question. And it's happening right across England. Isn't it?
Certainly is.
What's your message to the Prime Minister, Nigel?
It's been a long night.
For the Prime Minister, well, he's alienated so much of his traditional base. It's just extraordinary. I mean, look at what's happened in Doncaster tonight. Look at what's happened in North Tyneside tonight. Look at what's happened in various by-elections tonight. And look here, you know, one of Labour's safest seats in the country. The equivalent to Diane Abbott's seat in London. And that support's gone.
Absolutely incredible. And you heard him talking about how Keir Starmer has alienated the electorate there. Let's take a look at what he said about Keir Starmer when speaking to GB News.
So just finally, you were here yesterday. Labour have thrown everything at this. Pretty much everybody has been up here, but not the Prime Minister. Why do you think that is?
Because he's a coward. He doesn't lead from the front.
You know, I mean, he obviously feared they might lose, therefore he didn't come. I knocked on doors for 8 hours today, and I would have been here in this hall with our candidate, regardless whether we'd won or lost by 6 votes. And somehow with Keir Starmer, who, by the way, is a perfectly decent human being, but somehow with Keir Starmer, it's caution, 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 and no one really knows quite what he actually believes.
And just finally, how many of the mayoralties do you think you're going to win? 2, 3?
Well, we've just lost 2 by an absolute cigarette paper in North Tyneside and in Doncaster. We're winning in Lincolnshire, and we will win in Hull, probably by quite a big margin.
So there we go, Nigel talking about the mayoralty. So let's take a look at that as well, because I know this Runcorn by-election has been top of the news because it was such a close race that it was so exciting to watch. But what Andrea Jenkins has pulled off in Greater Lincolnshire with a huge majority of 40,000 votes to win the mayoralty there it's just astonishing. I know Lincoln's quite a pro-reform area, but she's done better than expected. I believe she's got about half of the votes she was expected with the YouGov polling to get 40% of the vote. And let's have a look at what happened in Doncaster and North Tyneside, which, as you can see on my screen there with this this piece from Sky News, are both Labour holds, but the people who won those should be scared and will probably be thinking they're only going to be in their post for 1 term, because reform came so close. So Doncaster, this one was lost. Reform lost this by only 689 votes. You can see both candidates, the Labour candidate and the Reform candidate, in the 23,000s in terms of the number of votes that they got. That was so close. Reform was so close to taking that, and even though they didn't quite take it, they should be celebrating, this huge swing towards Reform. The fact that a brand new party came that close to taking it is unbelievable. Similarly, North Tyneside, Labour only won by 444 votes after a recount. Reform nearly taking it. Now, West of England, Reform lost by a far greater margin, but that was expected. You had Reform's Aaron Banks standing there, but Helen Godwin, she was expected to take it by a big margin in the polling before, so that's no surprise and no disappointment there. And same for Cambridge and Peterborough. The one bit of good news for the Tories have kept that. Again, the Tories were expected to keep that. But what is going to be exciting is, I believe we're still waiting for the result from Hull, and that is expected to go to the Reform Party on YouGov. The Reform candidate is polling at 35% of the vote, whereas the Lib Dem candidate in second is expected to take 21% of the vote. So we could end up with both Andrea Jenkins and Hull having Reform mayors as their first mayors. These are places where the mayoralties are brand new. This is super exciting. And also, what some of you will be missing Darren on this channel, I'm sure, and we've got R. Elliott there. This is in County Durham, where, as you may have seen, Darren has been moving away from the TV screens and towards local politics, and he has been leading a fantastic campaign in County Durham, and he has won his seat as a councillor there. But the results there are astonishing, and that's our Elliot there on the screen as well. But let's just take a look at the results in Durham. This is unbelievable what they have pulled off there. Look at that. One big turquoise blue bar, and that's fully declared now. 98 out of 98 seats declared. The council leader was just lost very decisively to the Reform Party, and look at the result for Labour there. And just for context, guys, this council, it fell to no control in 2021, but before that, this council has been held by Labour since the dawn of time. It's a strong Labour heartland, and the Labour Party have been completely minced, and no one's voting for them there. Reform have completely swept the floor. So well done to Darren and his team for what they've pulled off there. It's genuinely absolutely incredible what's happening there and across the country. I don't think, just going back to the totals that we have got for the number of seats declared so far. I spoke to people in the Reform Party, as some of you may know. I go on Lee Anderson's show sometimes, and I was asking, what are you guys expecting? And they were hoping to get a couple of hundred council seats. They thought that would be good, a couple of hundred council seats. But I mean, look at that. That's not even fully declared yet. That's 15 out of 23 councils, 547. The results are, I think, way better than anyone could have possibly ever expected. And the Labour Party, how have they lost this? Well, of course, there is the incompetence of the Labour Party since they've been in power, the massive disappointment, all the different scandals. I think it sounds like, from hearing from people knocking on doors, that even things like the Lord Ali scandal is still a real sticking point for voters who thought that the people they were voting for when they voted for Labour were going to be people of integrity, that weren't sleazy and weren't taking all these freebies, but people were furious. But what about their actual election strategy? Well, it was this kind of stuff. Putting out graphics like this that are just blatant lies. It is not the case, it is not Reform's policy that you will pay 11 grand for an appendix removal if Reform lead the country. It's just completely false. It is complete and utter lie. Just because Nigel Farage may have mentioned, potentially involving some sort of insurance system, like, he's very clear that it should still be free at the point of use. You can have a little bit of privatisation and private companies involved in the working of the NHS. The current model clearly does not work, right, without it having to mean that you've got to pay 11 grand for an appendix removal, let alone £1. Right? That they still think it should be free at the point of use. Of course, the Reform Party know that it would be political suicide to do such a thing. But they've been putting out this, and they thought this was going to work. They thought they could lie to the electorate and tell the electorate, you'll have to pay 11 grand to have an appendix removed if you vote for Reform. And I think, the contempt the Labour Party treats us with, to think that we are so stupid that we will believe that, I think it's disgusting. They should have led an honest campaign with genuine arguments as to why their policies and how they will govern local areas would be better than Reform. Okay, they can point out the fact that Reform don't have any experience of local governance, really, aside from the few councillors they have that have won by-elections in the past. Right? They could have focused on that, focused on experience, but no, they put out this, it was essentially a smear campaign, and I think it is disgusting, and they paid the price for these disgusting, dirty tactics today. Karma always comes for those who act in such bigoted ways. But anyway, I hope you're all excited. It's great to be able to bring you guys some good news today. I finally feel like I have hope for this country once again. Let me know in the comments if you do too. Do you think that Reform are going to win the next general election after seeing the results that we've had today? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching this video. Subscribe to our channel if you've not already.